First contact revelations. The quantum sensors aboard the Sarkian exploration vessel Voidseeker pulsed with unexpected activity. Commander Lizar's translucent appendages rippled with annoyance as he studied the readings from the unremarkable yellow star system they had been passing by. "Analysis complete," announced Science Officer Trevix, her 6 eyes blinking in sequence as data streamed across her neural interface. "This third planet shows artificial electromagnetic emissions indicating technological civilization, though rather primitive." Lizar shifted his gelatinous form closer to the holographic display. "Primitive by what standard?" "They've barely left their atmosphere," Trevix replied. "Rudimentary orbital capabilities, fossil fuel dependency, and frequent territorial conflicts. Standard developmental markers suggest at least 2 centuries before they'd meet inclusion criteria for galactic recognition." The commander studied the blue-green world rotating slowly on the display. The Sarkians had mapped thousands of worlds in their 3-millennium exploration history, cataloging hundreds of emergent intelligent species, most self-destructed before achieving interstellar capability. The rest were carefully monitored, and when ready, welcomed into the galactic community. "Establish standard observation protocols," Lizar ordered. "We'll document baseline characteristics and continue our primary mission." Cultural specialist Vexna, however, displayed the subtle purple bioluminescence that her species used to indicate curiosity. "Commander, request permission to establish a more thorough observation network. Something about their transmission pattern seems unusual." Lizar's body pulsed with the blue light of annoyance. Resources were limited, and this primitive world hardly warranted special attention. But Vexna had earned her reputation through meticulous analysis that had proven valuable on numerous occasions. Granted. 3 solar cycles, no more. Vexna's observation drones deployed across Earth's orbit, collecting data, intercepting communications, and building a comprehensive picture of humanity that grew increasingly puzzling to the Sarkian analysis team. "These findings can't be correct," Trevix insisted, reviewing Vexna's 3rd daily report. "No species develops art before weaponry. It contradicts every evolutionary model." "Yet the evidence suggests they did," Vexna countered. "Their earliest cave paintings predate their first weapons. They created music before they created agriculture." Lizar, who had initially dismissed the mission as a waste of resources, found himself drawn into the growing debate. "Perhaps the error is in assuming our developmental path is universal." The observation continued, and the mysteries multiplied. Humans demonstrated contradictions that defied Sarkian understanding. They fought devastating wars, then expended enormous resources helping rebuild their enemies. They created medicines and gave them freely to nations that could never repay them. They sent aid to disaster zones with no strategic value. They appear to make decisions based on emotional responses rather than logical outcomes, Vexna reported. Yet they've advanced technologically at a rate that should have been impossible without logical frameworks. "Could this be a primitive evolutionary stage?" asked Trevix, still struggling to reconcile the data with established models. "I don't believe so," Vexna replied. "Their technology advances rapidly, yet they maintain these seemingly inefficient behaviors by choice. It appears to be a different evolutionary path, not an earlier stage." On the 17th day of observation, the Sarkians witnessed something that transformed their understanding completely. A massive earthquake struck a densely populated coastal region. Within hours, humans from around the planet mobilized resources. Nations that had been political adversaries sent rescue teams. Civilians opened their homes to strangers. People risked their lives to save others with no genetic relation. "This behavior has no parallel in any species we've encountered," Vexna said, her body glowing with intense purple excitement. "They value individual lives beyond any rational measure." "It's inefficient," Trevix argued. "The resources expended saving a few could benefit many more if allocated logically." "Yet perhaps this very inefficiency gives them strength," Lizar said thoughtfully. "They fight harder for survival than any species with a purely logical approach would." As their observation continued, the Sarksians documented human creativity, adaptability, and an almost irrational determination in the face of impossible odds. They watched humans create art for no purpose beyond beauty, develop relationships with no genetic or strategic advantage, and demonstrate compassion that transcended logical explanation. "We've been measuring advancement incorrectly," Vexna finally concluded in her formal presentation to Lizar and the ship's senior staff. "We value technological progression, resource efficiency, and logical decision structures. But humans have developed something equally valuable: empathic connection that drives collective action without centralized control." Lizar absorbed this assessment, his body cycling through colors of consideration. "Are you suggesting we recommend contact? They're centuries from meeting standard criteria." "I am," Vexna confirmed, "because our standard criteria may be flawed. The humans we never expected may have much to teach us." Trevix's body flashed deep red with alarm. "This is unprecedented. Their unpredictability makes them potentially dangerous, or potentially valuable allies," Vexna countered. "They solve problems differently than we do. Their very illogic produces solutions we would never conceive." Commander Lizar faced the most significant decision of his career. The Sarksian protocols for first contact had remained unchanged for millennia. Violating them required extraordinary justification. "Prepare a complete briefing for High Command," he finally ordered. "Include all observations, analyses, and your formal recommendation for exception to contact protocols." 3 days later, the response arrived via quantum communication. The message was brief but momentous. "First contact authorized. Proceed with caution. The Galactic Council has been notified and will convene to evaluate this species' potential inclusion despite their developmental stage." As the Voidseeker moved into Earth's orbit, preparing to reveal itself to humanity for the first time, Lizar addressed his crew. "We are about to violate thousands of years of established protocol. We do so because we've discovered something unexpected, a species that challenges our understanding of intelligence itself. Proceed with both caution and an open mind. The humans we never expected may change everything." The test of humanity. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the mental frequencies of 23 distinct species, their agitation evident even to those without telepathic sensitivity. The emergency session had been called immediately following the Sarksian report on humanity, and it marked the first time in 700 years that an exception to first contact protocols had been proposed. High Counselor Zex, a gaseous entity contained in a precision-engineered environment suit, pulsed with fluctuating colors that indicated extreme skepticism. "The Sarksians wish us to believe that a species barely capable of reaching their own moon deserves accelerated inclusion." Based on what? Their ability to feel. Emotions are evolutionary holdovers that advanced species outgrow. Not outgrow, integrate, corrected Counselor Myra, one of the few organic beings on the Council. Her species had evolved from aquatic origins, and even after achieving space travel, they maintained a deep connection to their emotional roots. "The evidence suggests humans have developed emotional intelligence alongside technological advancement, rather than sacrificing one for the other, which makes them unpredictable and potentially dangerous," countered Zex. The debate continued for days, with the Council ultimately reaching a compromise that was unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity would be tested. On Earth, the appearance of the massive Sarksian vessel in orbit had initially created global panic, but Commander Lizar and cultural specialist Vexna had managed first contact with remarkable success, establishing communication with a hastily assembled international delegation. The Sarksians explained their mission of peaceful exploration and expressed interest in cultural exchange, deliberately omitting mention of the Galactic Council's special interest in humanity. 6 months into this carefully managed contact, when humans had begun to adjust to the reality of intelligent alien life, the test began. The first challenge arrived without warning. Simultaneous power failures struck every major city on Earth. Communication systems failed. transportation networks collapsed. Hospitals lost life support capabilities. From their observation platforms, the council representatives watched. Would humans turn on each other? Would they prioritize their own survival over others? Would they abandon the weak? Instead, they witnessed something remarkable. Communities organized aid with astonishing speed. Strangers helped strangers. Medical professionals walked miles to reach patients. People with generators invited neighbors to charge essential devices. Interesting cooperation, admitted Counselor Zex, but hardly proof of exceptional quality. Crisis often produces temporary altruism, even in lesser species. The second test targeted human creativity. The Sarksians accidentally shared information about a sophisticated technology that, unknown to humans, contained a fundamental flaw that made it impossible to implement as described. The Council expected humans would either fail completely or copy the approach exactly, demonstrating a lack of original thinking. Instead, within months, research teams from 3 different continents had not only identified the flaw but developed novel workarounds that the Council's engineers found genuinely innovative. Even more surprisingly, they freely shared their solutions globally instead of competing for advantage. They appear to value knowledge expansion over knowledge control, noted Myra with obvious approval. A rare quality even among Council species. The final test was the most controversial. A Council faction led by Zex authorized the creation of an artificial extinction-level threat, a bioengineered pathogen released into Earth's ecosystem that would trigger catastrophic crop failures within one growing season. The humans would be given subtle clues about its nature, but no direct assistance. If they failed to develop a solution, the Council would intervene before actual extinction occurred, but the test would be considered failed. This goes too far, Vexna protested when she learned of the plan. You risk an entire species to satisfy academic curiosity. We risk nothing, Zex countered. We will prevent actual extinction. But potential Council members must demonstrate exceptional capability. If they cannot solve a manageable crisis, they have no place among advanced civilizations. The pathogen spread rapidly, and within months, crop failures were reported worldwide. Global panic ensued as food reserves dwindled. The Council observed grimly, noting increased tensions between nations as resources became scarce. Yet even as hunger spread, something unexpected happened. International research teams formed, exchanging findings hourly. Nations shared their remaining food stores. And most remarkably, when a promising treatment was developed that could only be produced in limited quantities, humans faced an impossible choice about distribution, and made it in a way that stunned the watching Council. Instead of protecting their most productive citizens as efficiency would dictate, they prioritized children regardless of nationality or status. Instead of hoarding the treatment, affluent nations shared it proportionally with all. And when it became clear that production required rare materials that some nations possessed in abundance, those resources were contributed without demand for compensation. They're sacrificing optimal outcomes for equitable ones, Zex observed with confusion. This defies rational behavior models. Perhaps our rational models are incomplete, Myra suggested. The final revelation came when the Council discovered that human scientists had identified the artificial nature of the pathogen far earlier than expected. They had found evidence of deliberate engineering, and correctly deduced they were being tested. Yet instead of responding with anger or attempting to track the source, they had simply focused on solving the problem. When the crisis passed and the last crops were treated, the Council convened one final time. The vote on humanity's exceptional status was no longer in doubt. Commander Lizzer and Vexna were given the honor of delivering the news to Earth's united delegation. They explained everything: the tests, the Council's purpose, and the unprecedented invitation for humanity to join the galactic community despite their early developmental stage. The human response, once again, surprised them. You engineered a pathogen that threatened our children to test us, asked the lead human representative, her voice steady but intense. The Council did, Lizzer clarified. and measures were in place to prevent actual extinction. The room fell silent. The Sarksians prepared for expressions of outrage, perhaps even a rejection of the Council's invitation. Instead, the human representative spoke with remarkable composure. "We understand testing potential allies. We've done similar things in our history, though we've learned better methods. We accept your invitation, but with a condition. We want to help reform the testing protocols for future species." Vexna's body glowed with bright purple amazement. Even now, the humans managed to surprise them, responding to a potentially lethal test not with anger, but with a proposal for improvement. "The humans we never expected," Lizar said softly, using the phrase that had become common among the Sarksian crew, "continue to teach us." As the formal agreements were prepared and humanity took its first steps into a much larger universe, the Galactic Council found itself facing an uncomfortable realization. In their pursuit of advancement, many member species had lost something valuable, something the humans had preserved despite their technological limitations. Perhaps, Counselor Myra suggested in the final session report, it was time for the advanced species of the galaxy to re-examine what advanced truly meant. The humans they had underestimated would help show them the way.